Namaste everyone, welcome to Millionaire GRE. I am Punit. This is the second video on coordinate geometry. If you have not watched the first one, please go through it before continuing with this video. In this video, we are going to discuss about slope. Slope of a line essentially measures how inclined the line is towards the positive direction of x-axis. How inclined the line is towards the positive direction of x-axis. Now take note, x is positive towards the right, negative towards the left. Slope measures how inclined the line is towards the positive direction of x-axis. But more than this definition, more than this concept, we need to know the formula. That is more important. If there are 2 points, x1, y1 and x2, y2, slope is change in y coordinates upon change in x coordinates. Okay. Slope is change in y upon change in x, which is simply y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. You can also do y1 minus y2 upon x1 minus x2. Slope is change in y coordinates upon change in x coordinates. And one more thing, slope is generally denoted with the letter m. Now let's say there is a line parallel to x-axis. What is its slope? Try to think about it. If a line is parallel to x-axis, what is its slope? Let's take any 2 points on this line. Let's take these 2 points. Now you will notice difference in y coordinates is 0. So change in y is 0. But change in x is something. Change in x is something. 0 upon anything is 0. So any line parallel to x-axis has slope 0. Now any line parallel to y-axis, what is its slope? Pick any 2 points. You realize that y coordinates are different, so change in y would be something. But change in x is 0 because both the points have the same x coordinates. Anything upon 0 is not defined. So any line parallel to x-axis has slope 0. Any line parallel to y-axis has slope not defined. Let's discuss a few more things. If 2 lines are parallel, let's say these 2 lines are parallel with slopes m1 and m2. In this case, m1 is equal to m2, or parallel lines have equal slopes. Parallel lines have equal slopes. If 2 lines are perpendicular, let's say this is line m1, this is line with slope m2, and these 2 are perpendicular, then product of their slopes will be equal to -1. If 2 lines are perpendicular, product is -1. Okay, let's recap everything. Slope measures how inclined the line is towards the positive direction of x-axis. Slope is generally denoted with the letter m. And how do you calculate slope if you know 2 points? You find the difference in y coordinates upon difference in x coordinates, you will get the slope. Any line parallel to x-axis has slope 0. Any line parallel to y-axis has slope not defined. 2 parallel lines have equal slopes. If 2 lines are perpendicular, product of their slopes is equal to -1. Let's move on. Now I would want you to pause and give this question a try. I hope you have done so. Now there are 2 lines given to us with slopes m1 and m2. And we have to essentially determine which is bigger. Let's assume a few points. Let's take this point as 1, 1 and this point as 0, 2. This is the origin. So 0, 0. Okay. Now let's find m1. m1 is change in y upon change in x. So you can do 1 minus 0 as change in y upon change in x. Again 1 minus 0. That will give us the value of 1. Let's find m2. m2 is again change in y upon change in x. You can do 1 minus 2 upon 1 minus 0. that gives us -1. Now 1 is obviously greater than -1, hence m1 is greater than m2. But there is one more concept you have to know, and that is all ascending lines. Ascending line means the lines which rise or ascend from left to right. From left to right, all these lines are ascending. They are moving upwards from left to right. All ascending lines have positive slopes. Similarly, if a line is descending, it's coming down or falling from left to right, it will have a negative slope. Okay, all ascending lines or rising lines have positive slopes. All descending lines or falling lines have a negative slope. Here m1 is the slope of an ascending line, so m1 has to be positive, and m2 is the slope of a descending line, it has to be negative. So without calculation you can figure out m1 will be greater than m2. Positive is greater than negative. You do not have to assume the points. So again, the concept is all ascending lines have positive slopes, all descending lines have negative slopes. Now let's say if both the lines are ascending, for instance in this case, which will have a greater slope? Think about this. Okay, we'll again assume some points. Of course, this is the origin. Let's assume a point here. Let this point be 1, 1. We want a point in the first quadrant. 1, 1 lies in the first quadrant. Let this point be directly above this point and the coordinates be 1, 2. Let's find m1 and m2. To find m2, we will do change in y upon change in x. So 1 minus 0 upon 1 minus 0, which gives us 1. To find m1, we will do change in y, which is 2 minus 0 upon 1 minus 0, which is 2. So m1 is greater than m2. 2 is greater than 1. Here also there is one concept you have to know. That bigger the angle, bigger the slope. Okay. Here m1 makes a greater angle with the positive direction of x-axis. You always make this angle. You always take into account this angle, not this angle. Okay. You always take the angle from the direction where x is positive. X is positive towards the right and negative towards the left. m1 makes a bigger angle than m2. So m1 will be greater than m2. Okay, the line which makes a greater angle has a greater slope. Let's move ahead. Now in this case, both the lines are descending, so both will have a negative slope. But can you determine which is greater, m1 or m2? We can assume points. Let's say this point is 2, 0. Let this point be 0, 2. Let this point be 0, 1. Let's find m2. m2 is change in y upon change in x. So you can do 0 minus 2 upon change in x, which is 2 minus 0. You get minus 2 upon 2, which is minus 1. Let's find m1. Change in y upon change in x again. 0 minus 1 upon change in x. 2 minus 0. You get minus half. Obviously, minus half is greater than minus 1. So m1 is greater than m2. There's concept that you have to know, and the concept is if two lines are descending, again the greater angle implies greater slope. If two lines are descending, greater angle implies greater slope. Here m1 makes a greater angle with the positive direction of x-axis, hence it has a greater slope. Okay, you did not have to assume points. So let me reiterate everything. If one line is ascending, other line is descending, it is easy to figure out which has a greater slope, because ascending will have a positive slope, descending will have a negative slope. If two lines are ascending, then both will have a positive slope, but bigger angle implies bigger slope. If two lines are descending, both will have a negative slope, but here also bigger angle implies bigger slope. And with this, we are done with this video. In this video, we discussed extensively about slopes. In the next video, we are going to discuss about intercepts. If you like this video, then please press the like button and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.